Hello out there. We're on the air. I'll get out of the way here a little bit. Arnie decided to show up today. Our co-host is in the building, in the house. He's checking in. Josh is checking in from Ontario, here for the Arnie fix. Well, happy Thanksgiving. Actually, Josh, before we go any further, I got to give you 88 sats. So toss your lightning URL into the chat. I don't know how many people are going to show up today. I don't think people are working, which is weird because usually you'd think that when people aren't working, this is actually when they'd watch a show. But it's the opposite. When people are working, I think they watch the show. So anyways, Josh, toss your lightning URL in there. We'll get you 88 sats. We'll get you going. And it is the daily Bitcoin journey. Happy Thursday. Not quite as beautiful as yesterday. It's a little bit dark outside today, but that's okay. It's Thursday. It is Thanksgiving. I would like to wish a happy Thanksgiving to all of our American audience, which makes up about 49%, I think, of the people who watch the show. So a big, well, not really big, but happy Thanksgiving to the Americans. I put out a post today on nostr talking about that, saying it's Thanksgiving in the U.S. I live about 20. It feels really quiet in here today. I don't know what's going on. My bid axe is off or something? No. I don't know. Anyways, I live about 2 hours from the U.S. border. So in Canada here, the dollar is about 40% weaker than the U.S. dollar. So 2 hours, an imaginary invisible border, which, I mean, don't get me wrong, borders are important, but it's just crazy to me how 2 hours and it's that much of a difference. So, thank God for Bitcoin for us Canadians, for sure. The US dollar seems to be holding its power out of more than any other currency, maybe other than I don't know, it's the Singapore dollar. I think Singapore has been doing pretty well, their economy. But anyways, it doesn't really make sense is what I'm saying. It doesn't make any sort of sense. So cheers to the Americans and to the poor Canadians out there who are saving in Canadian dollars instead of Bitcoin. Okay, well, let's get to her here. I'm a little bit behind. It was a bit of a scramble this morning. It's kind of, I don't know, I'm still kind of adjusting to the whole blog prep / podcast prep / show prep. It's a lot. It's a lot more than I was, even a month ago. I was just getting ready for the show. That's it. But I just feel like, that this stuff is important to be talked about, I think. And I think the more places we can have it said in different ways, the better and the faster this whole thing can happen. So it's worth it to me, but it is tough. What else was I going to say here? Let's get to the mempool, see what's going on in the network today. If everybody's sleeping or if they're moving Bitcoin around. By the way, I have to correct myself for a couple things today. I should have just called the show the retraction show. But the first one was yesterday I talked about our Black Friday special for knggolf that we're doing. So you can get, and that's why I wore this today. I wanted to show it off because these zips are so nice. And I just feel like, I don't know. I don't feel like enough people know about them. So they're very similar to like a Lululemon kind of thing, except they're about half the price and a local small company. So, it matters to me anyways. So I said yesterday that the deal was you can get a quarter zip, a polo, or a hoodie and a hat for $100 Canadian. That's the deal that we're doing. I gave it to the community here first in case there's any people who wanted to take advantage of that. And there was a couple. I think we've had 4 people place an order so far. But I lied. I said that it was 110,000 sats. That was me thinking that $60,000 Bitcoin. Let me get you an updated price here. So 100 Canadian dollars. It's definitely not 110,000 sats. 75,000 sats. So I was only 35,000 sats off, or $50. So that's the deal. That's actually crazy. That's actually crazy when you think about it like that. So for 75,000 sats, if you want to take advantage of that, we still haven't posted it on King Golf. I'm going to do that in about 2 hours from now. But you can get either a hoodie, one of these zips, quarter zips, or one of our polos, and one of the hats for 75,000 sats. You got to pay in Bitcoin though, plus shipping, and I can ship it to anywhere in the world. So if you're interested, if you want to grab one, go to, I need a banner here for King Golf because it's spelled differently. Eh? So I'll just throw it in the chat. I won't put anything else in there right now. But that's what you can, there it is. What a banner. So there it is. kinggolf.ca. You can go there. So what you're going to do, you're going to check out the website. You're going to find something you like, mix it with a hat, then shoot me an email and say, I want to order these in your sizes, colors, and 75,000 sats. Just goes to show, you know, we've been accepting Bitcoin for a couple of years, and the people who paid in Bitcoin, it goes to show how valuable those are nowadays. So there's a website there for you. I wanted to mention that to everybody here. Oh yeah, let's check on the Zap stream too. I forgot about the Zap stream. Who's over there? What's happening? Oh, there's quite a few people over there. Look at that. We got Letha. Happy Thanksgiving, Letha. I know where I shouldn't say where a lot of people are from, but country-wise anyways. And lots that I don't. I asked that very early on in the journey here. I asked people to leave a little comment with a flag from where they're from. But that was like a year ago. So I have no idea nowadays where people are from. Okay, what's our goal going to be here today? Let's have a goal. Let's have a Thanksgiving. Working on Thanksgiving, even though it's not my Thanksgiving. Okay. Let's do 8,000 sats for a goal today. I think that's manageable. We could hit that. Okay, let's get to the mempool. Okay, hold on here, folks. 1:37 p.m. Okay. So let's get to the pool. We're currently sitting at block height 872,347. And if you're transacting on the Bitcoin layer 1, you're paying 15 sats per VByte, which is pretty high. Pretty high. Higher than you want to be paying. Actually, I want to do a little rant on transaction fees here right after this. I was thinking about it as I was laying in bed last night. So that's F pool, F2 pool, Foundry, and pool. The usual suspects have been cleaning up the blocks. We're 33 blocks ahead, which is a very strong indication for the Bitcoin network, considering we're basically at an all-time high right now in the amount of energy going into the network. So let's go. I'm going to go to the metrics. I'm going to jump right over here so we can chat a little bit more today. But I do need to update these. I didn't put the Moscow time in today. So I'm just going to do these on the fly. So the price today, back up a little bit. What was it yesterday? 94. Okay, so we're up a little bit from yesterday. 95,711. Looked like it was ripping last night. Came down a little bit. But anyways, we landed around 95, 96. 1 year ago today, you could have purchased a Bitcoin for $37,832 US dollars. And 4 years ago, you could have got a Bitcoin for $17,692. I'm actually going to do Canada first today because I'm in the Canada conversion on my phone. So the Moose Jaw time here in Canada is $1 Canadian will get you 745 sats. also known as the deal of a lifetime. And if you're looking to be moose jaw rich, you got to get 1 million sats, and that's going to cost you $1,340. Okay, back up to the US. What's the Moscow time today? $1 is going to get you 1,046 sats. So we're still above the thousands until we hit 100K in the US. And then we're going to drop into triple digits for a while. Do you think we're going to hit 100K today? Might happen. I'm thinking today or tomorrow. It's my prediction, my very short-term prediction. And if you're looking to be Moscow rich in the US of A, it's going to cost you $956. And we need the Canadian price today. How are we looking? I got to shake and I got to check the price. Androids don't shake as good as iPhones. By the way, I don't know why this isn't bigger news in the world, but for those of you who've been watching the show for a while, the price is 133,928 Canadian dollars today in Canada. So that's the metrics. That's the state of the Bitcoin network. That's what's going on. We actually did that pretty quick today. Yesterday, it took us half an hour to get to the mempool and metrics. But I feel like if you've been watching the show for a while, you know that I recently switched from iPhone to Android after being with the iPhone since the iPhone 3 back in 2010, 2009. Anyways, I switched to an Android. It was tough, but it was a very good decision, turned out to be. And apparently, like this happened in the last month, but now, like the big thing with the Androids is that you couldn't communicate back and forth with iPhones very easily. iPhone, they made it very difficult for anybody who didn't own an iPhone to communicate. Like sending text, sending pictures, videos was a nightmare. Pretty much switched over to Signal for the majority of my conversations and group chats. But now with the RCS chat, if you update your iPhone, or if you have an Android and your friends and family update their iPhone to the most recent version, there's actually a thing called RCS chat, which is basically, it seems like the iMessage, the exact same. It's no longer sending back and forth with SMS texts. So I feel like that's pretty big news. I feel like that's one of the biggest barriers for people who are thinking about switching to the Android, is that they won't be able to easily communicate with which is insane. But that's Apple for you. But anyways, the majority of my friends now are on an updated iPhone. You don't have to buy a new iPhone. You just have to update to the latest software. And so it's way better now, way better. It was such a nightmare trying to send SMS text. Like it was fucking archaic. Okay, we got Ahsoka over in the chat. We got Plunger. And Leith is making brownies, apple pie, green bean, and corn casseroles. Whew. And turkey. Apple pie. What was the name we had in here yesterday? Something Mama loves apple pie or something. Great name. Hopefully they'll show up today again. Anyways, Jason, happy Thanksgiving to our American brothers and sisters. Ian's here. Jason is a Canadian. Canadians like, it's kind of a one-way street. Canadians usually wish happy Thanksgiving to Americans. But when it's Canadian Thanksgiving, Americans don't even know it's Canadian Thanksgiving. Ian says, got it, I can't listen. I forgot my iPods. Have a great show. I'll catch up later. Yeah, no problem. I'm enjoying, it's only been one day. But I'm enjoying the difference now between the live show and the podcast. And if you haven't checked that out yet, I highly encourage it. I did the first episode yesterday. You can find it on Fountain. You can find it on Spotify. I think it's on Apple. But it's the same RSS, so you can just type in the Daily Bitcoin Journey. And it was episode 001. Talking about, holy man, talking too much. It was good. I actually meant to talk a little bit about it on the show yesterday, but we ran out of time. We ran half an hour late yesterday. So it was about saving. I call it the Bitcoin piggy bank, and thinking about things differently in terms of insurance funds, emergency funds, down payment funds, wedding funds, travel funds, and how we should be thinking differently about it in terms of Bitcoin. So it was about half an hour long. I'm going to stick to that. I actually really like that format where I can just talk instead of, I love the interruptions, but as a listener, like listening to a podcast, just going back and forth with people, that's kind of a non-starter for a lot of people, including myself. So we're going to kind of separate now. We're going to have the live show every day. We're going to interact. We're going to answer questions, discuss things. And then I'm going to jump over to do the podcast, which are going to be about 30, 45 minutes long, hopefully. Just doing a little bit deeper dives into certain topics and issues and experiences. So make sure if you're, it's a totally different thing now. It's not like you can just watch it on YouTube and you're going to get everything instead of listening to the podcast. So make sure if you're not yet, get on Fountain, find the podcast on there, add it to your favorites or add it to your downloads. And if you're on Spotify, if you're not on Fountain yet, then make sure to follow or subscribe on there. I don't know. Then turn on the notification so you see it. I won't be doing it every day, but most days I want to try to do it. So definitely check that out. It was a good one yesterday. Jay, good morning. Damien from Singapore. I saw that you booked something for today. Do you mind, if you're still here, Damien, do you mind sending me an email? I didn't really understand what was happening there because it said you rescheduled, but there was no reschedule. So are you still wanting to do it today in like 2 hours from now? Or do you want to, was there a different time? Just shoot me an email. If not, I'll reach out probably right after the show if you're gone. But just maybe clear that up with me. Cowbit, good morning. Kyle, one of our Bitcoin Journeyman, good morning. Speaking of Bitcoin Journeyman and living the future, wow, that community is somebody said we're going through the bull market and bull run and living in the future right now. I can't even keep up with the people who are joining in there right now, which is a good problem to have. But if you're somebody who's waiting to either hear from me or get info or get added to the chat, just give me some time here. There's a lot going on and a lot of people joining, which is good. It's almost a no-brainer based on the things that are happening in there right now. Ahsoka says, sounds yummy, Letha. Just figured this is for Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving. All right. Well, that's good. Zap streams, talking about food, talking about family. It's what you want. And that's actually what the podcast is going to be about today. I'm going to be talking about how who's going to succeed in the next decade in terms of people, in terms of businesses. And I think just it made me think of that, like the family, the traditional values, going away from this woke bullshit, going away from the DEI, diversity, equality, and inclusion. It's going away. And so the businesses who are still attached to that are going to fail. And the businesses who go the other way and actually embrace the family, the traditional values, and the important things in life are going to be the ones who succeed, in my opinion. So that's a good one. That's the focus of today's podcast. Bailey, good morning. Also known as Duncan. I still love that. Duncan, we always talk about buying Bitcoin for your last name instead of your first name. And so Duncan changed his name on YouTube and other places to be his last name. AJ, here we go. This is a good question. This leads us into it's a perfect segue into the next part of the show here. So AJ says, hey, fellow Canadian here, where do you buy your Bitcoin? Have you used ShakePay or Newton? What do you recommend? So, I've been around for about 4 or 5 years now in Bitcoin. So I started with Binance, which was a wild experience. I talked about this the other day, but it was just like you had to go through 1,000 hoops before you actually got the Bitcoin. You paid way too much in transaction fees that you didn't even know you were paying. And so then I moved to I think there was Newton was one of them. There was ShakePay, and there was another couple that I was using. Anyways, I use ShakePay now. AJ, I still recommend you use ShakePay or get a ShakePay account. If you don't have one yet, just maybe shoot me an email. I can send you a referral link. I don't think it's in the show notes, but I think you get like $10 or $5 worth of Bitcoin for free. I just basically use ShakePay now for the Visa. And if you're in Canada, I think that that's the best option. I think that everybody should be doing that. So basically what you do there with the ShakePay Visa card, and I think Fold's very similar to this. So this is applicable to Canadians and Americans. But with ShakePay, basically all you do is send an e-transfer to them and it sits in your cash account there. Actually, in America too, River now earns Bitcoin on that cash balance. But I would still rather hold it in Bitcoin personally, based on where we are right now. So anyways, you send ShakePay an e-transfer or a payment. They fund your account, so it sits there in Canadian dollars. And then you can actually either use that to buy Bitcoin or you can buy things with your Visa. So it's like a prepaid Visa that's hooked up to your ShakePay app. And I pay for everything on there. Gas, groceries, anything I can tap my phone on, I use ShakePay Visa for that because you earn sats back. So even with our knggolf business, when I'm buying like the hats and when I'm buying these quarter zips and stuff, like I pay for it with my ShakePay card, then I get sats back, which is wild to me. I know that in the future, there's going to be some purchases that I made where I actually made money on the deal. You know, it doesn't look like it right now, but let's say I think I paid some bills one day for knggolf and I made about 25,000 sats. And so if you factor that into what we talked about yesterday in terms of the true scarcity of Bitcoin and how it's going to reprice everything, then I'm actually going to significantly come out ahead in that trade in 5-10 years from now. So that's ShakePay. I still recommend people do that. You earn free sats just for shaking your phone every day. But the exchange that I use here in Canada is Bitcoin Well. So I'm going to put this banner. I'm loving these banners lately. But I use Bitcoin Well. So we're going to give away some free Bitcoin here actually right now on that note. So get your phones out, get your Lightning wallets opened up, press send, and somebody here is going to win at least 500 sats, courtesy of Bitcoin Well. And so my recommendation is probably a little bit biased since they are a supporter of the show, partners of the show. But still, this is the one that I use for my Bitcoin. So I'm speaking from my personal experience here. They're the best platform in Canada to use. Ready? Set. Go. $500 sats today to some lucky soul out there. Some lucky soul just won 500 sats. Maybe life changing? I don't know. Could be, depending on how far you look out. All right. So that's that. So AJ, that's what I would definitely say. The nice thing about Bitcoin Well is you can buy. I like the recurring buy option. That's what I set up. And I actually talked about that in the podcast yesterday in terms of setting up a whole bunch of different recurring buys. Start with like 2 or 3, but you could set up like $15 a week. You set up a Bitcoin address for that. You connect it to your Lightning wallet, and then you send it to the new down payment fund or wedding fund or travel fund or health insurance fund. And you can set up a different recurring buy with a different frequency and a different amount based on your funds. So that's a great feature here, the recurring buy. But the swap is the big one for me, because if you're somebody who likes decent, holy fuck, what was that? Arnie. What was that? You break something? Well, he doesn't. Oh, you can't even see him. Yeah, it doesn't look too guilty, but something definitely just fell out there. Anyways, what was I saying there? Oh yeah, the swap feature. So with the swap feature, the really nice thing about that is if you are somebody who likes DCA, you really have to pay close attention to your UTXOs and where you're sending it, where it's going to. So that's why I like the swap feature, because you can use something like the recurring buy. You can DCA, you can send it to a Lightning wallet. You can set up as many Lightning wallets as you want to. Just use Coinos for that. And so you set up a recurring buy, and instead of it going to your cold storage every small purchase and building up a whole bunch of UTXOs, you just send it to a Lightning address. And then once that gets to like 100,000 or 150,000 sats, you go back to Bitcoin Wallet, you send it, you use the free swap feature, and then you create one UTXO going into cold storage. So to me, that's the best setup in terms of fees, in terms of UTXO management, in terms of just the whole structure in your funds and organization of things. It's the stuff you got to pay attention to. And I don't think that enough people do, personally. So again, you can go to bitcoinwell.com/George, sign up for an account there, and you're going to get 5 free tosses into the well for a minimum of 2,500 sats. Speaking of that, I do have the Zap streams running today, but we also have our YouTube Zap stream right here for Arnie. That's his address. That's his own fund. And I saw a couple come in here. One was 100 sats, and then 2,100 sats came in. So it's morning, Jor, from Ryan J and the dogs. Thank you, Ryan. And that's good guy, that Ryan. I talked to him, I think it was last week. He wanted my opinion on something. So thank you, Ryan. That's very much appreciated. And Arnie would say thanks as well if he wasn't too busy destroying the house out there. I can't wait to go see what happened. Kyle says, highly recommend Jack Mahler's Money Matters podcast on SBR from Monday. What's SBR? Oh, Strategic Bitcoin Reserve. I should know that. Okay, I'll check that out. I'll definitely check that out. I love Jack. Big fan. Calbit from Massachusetts. Oh, that's cool. So you're celebrating today. Trevor says, good morning from Nova Scotia. Cheers. We were talking about Nova Scotia on the show yesterday. Except I got too distracted and forgot what the actual question was. Daniel says, Bitcoin Wall is a good exchange for Canadians. I 100% agree with that. I think it's the best one. It's the one I use. You can just do a lot of things on there. Oh, we got another Zap here. What do we got? 880 sats came in to Arnie's wallet. Man, Arnie's more popular than me. I think we should just have a live stream on Arnie the whole time. Okay, over on Zapstream, Plunger says Bitcoin Well is my primary Shake Pay to get free sats. Yep, I'm the exact same. Plus Shake Pay for the Visa card. That's a big one. Don't underestimate. And they also have a nice feature on there called Roundup, where if you make a purchase, let's say you go to the Subway, you buy a sub and it costs $12. You can set your Roundup on Shake Pay Visa to be, I have mine at $3. So if I bought a $12 sub, it would round up to the next $3. It would charge me $15 and I would get $3 worth of Bitcoin. So it's a really good way to like stack sats without even really knowing that you're doing it. Two fans, Soko. What the hell does that mean? Soko. Is it a song? Oh, it's Japanese. I should have guessed that. No, that's not right. It says a species of African ape, supposedly a variety of the chimpanzee. Also a song by Cabo Snoop. I like it though. Soko. Oh my God. Ahsoka, maybe that's what they're talking about. Ahsoka says, got the sats. Thanks to our Bitcoin Well. I'll send the 500 to Arnie. You might need it to cover the breakages. Oh man. You guys are funny. Okay, and somebody just sent 1,000 sats to Arnie from Fred BB and Fifi. Arnie's killing it today. He's not even here. He's too busy breaking shit in the house. Okay, Trevor says, we won't hit 100K today. Everyone busy with Thanksgiving, Black Friday, in my opinion. Could be right. You could be right. You could be wrong. Tufan says, just move to Zimbabwe. You'll be a billionaire. Probably not wrong. It's the crazy thing about kind of where we are right now is if you're in America with the strongest currency, like I don't think there's ever been this type of like spread between the US dollar and other countries in history before. Like even though all currencies are collapsing, the US dollar is the one that's kind of like distancing itself from other currencies. So as an American, you could probably sell your house there. You'd have to pay like an escape or what's it called, exit tax. But you could go to a country like Zimbabwe or Argentina, some country with a very poor currency, and you could just live like a king there. I think that's been an opportunity for like the last decade, but no more than it is today. That's for sure. Oh, another payment here, another Zap. Arnie might get to retire after today's show at this rate. We got 1,000 sats from our good friend Duchess. Happy American Thanksgiving to Arnie and the rescue dogs from Lucky the dog and Duchess. Thank you. Thank you. This is cool. I like this. Oh, okay. I know this is really off topic now that we're away from the mempool, but this is what I was thinking about last night. Laying in bed. Overtired for sure. I worked till about 10 o'clock last night. This is kind of my very busy season right now because especially for the last couple of years, I've had the knggolf stuff and I've had the Bitcoin stuff. And usually they work out pretty well in terms of like when times I'm busy with golf, I'm usually slow with Bitcoin. And when times I'm busy with Bitcoin, I'm slow with golf because it's really correlated with the summer. And in the summer, most people care about golf. They don't care about their finances. But in November, it's like the perfect storm where we're getting ready for Christmas with knggolf and Bitcoin's ripping. So anyways, I was laying in bed late last night thinking about transaction fees. And I've heard people make predictions where, it's going to cost like the fees are going to keep going up as more and more people come onto the network, as countries, entities, organizations, big companies start moving on layer one, the fees are going to go up and it's going to be unusable for the average person. And I do agree with that. But the part I don't agree with is that I don't think that the fees are going to go up in terms of sats. They might go up in terms of like purchasing power, but like we did an example, and I'm actually going to dive a little bit further into it today, hopefully if we can find the time, where we said 4,200 sats would buy a house eventually. Like that's a ways out there, but that's like it when Bitcoin reprices the whole world, that's what it's going to be worth. It's actually a different figure, which I'm going to talk about here later on. It's not 4,200 sats. That's a retraction on my end, but it's still not too far off of that. So imagine that's kind of like your normal fee right now. If fees are high, even in current environment, you're paying about 4,200 sats to move Bitcoin on layer one. So do you really think that somebody's going to pay a house worth of purchasing power to move Bitcoin? No. People aren't factoring how much each sat is going to be worth in the future. So I think that we're probably going to go, in the next couple cycles, it might go up to like 50 sats per rebyte, at high times like 100 maybe. But then over time here, what's going to happen is actually going to come way down in sats. I think it's going to go from like 1 sat per vbyte will be high, and then we'll go to like 100 microsats per vbyte, because people aren't factoring in how much the sats are going to be worth one day. So that's why I think it's important to pay attention to your UTXOs and manage them well. But I don't think that like if you had a $20,000 or 20,000 sat UTXO, I don't think that that's going to be unspendable. Most people think that like the fees are going to eat away at that, where you're not even going to be able to move it. But I think we're going to move to a time where it's like 500 millisats per vbyte and then 100 millisats per vbyte. Like they're actually going to go down over time as sats become more valuable. the fees per sat are actually going to go down. The purchasing power, like the translation between dollars and the relationship there, will probably stay the same or increase. But in sats terms, I think that that's actually going to come down. So most Bitcoiners, I think, would disagree with me there, but I don't think they're thinking I don't think they realize how valuable sats are. Holy, Arnie's something's up with that guy today. He's choking on his water now. You all right? What is going on? Arturo Navarro, man. I say this a lot, but there's some really cool names out there. That's it. That's one that's up there. Arturo Navarro, America First, let's go tariffs. I was thinking about that yesterday too. I mean, here in Canada, we're going to get absolutely slaughtered by that, but it's going to be a good wake-up call for a lot of people. And it's kind of weird to be a Canadian and like cheering for that kind of thing. But I do think that that's going to be important to really wake up governments around the world to comply with the standard that's being set in the US. So basically, I think it was last week, Trump's called Trudeau and said, if you don't fix your borders, we're going to charge you a 25% tariff on any imported goods. And again, that's going to hurt Canadians. That's going to hurt me personally. But I cheer that on because it's important. Like having a border, a functioning border, is one of the top priorities, or the top priority for any country out there. We've seen the impacts of that in the US and in Canada in the last decade. And, even though it's going to hurt short term, I do think that it's going to benefit all countries in the long term. Jay, I saw this. It's crazy. And that's today, right? So Jay says Bitcoin hit $1,000 and $10,000 on November 28th. So eyes are on. Eyes are on 100K. How are we looking right now? Okay, get out of here, ShakePay. Leave me alone. Leave me alone. 95,723 right now. So we got a little ways to climb, but I think we'll get there. That's very interesting though, isn't it? Like not this week or this month in November, but like this specific day, Bitcoin hit 1,000 and 10,000 in the past. I think the 10,000 one was in 2017, and $100,000 were at the door. We're at the gates, the doorstep. Andrew says, set up my first BitAxe miner last night. Very easy setup. Yeah, it is, hey? I got 2 running in here. And I'm pretty sure, I still got this fucking banner going. Get out of here. I'm pretty sure, if I'm not mistaken, I should have, we actually have a Bitcoin Journey store with Solo Satoshi. I'm just going to double check before I give you any misinformation here. I want to make sure that link is in the notes. Yeah, it is. So within the show notes here, there's a whole bunch of links. So, I mean, if you got a couple seconds, just scroll through the show notes sometime and see, like we got Bitcoin Well in there. We got the BitAxe store. We got cold cards. We got Grey Ridge Coffee. You get 25% off coffee. Local roaster here. Start 9, there's a code on there. Bitcoin gear from Juxtapose, CATHIE Wood shirts, and more. So check that out. If you're in the market for BitAxe, use the Bitcoin Journey store there. Very easy way to support the show while getting a chance to win some. Imagine that. I check mine every morning, and I'm probably it's kind of a stupid thing to do, but so when you set up your BitAxe, you connect it to a Bitcoin address. And so every time I come on the computer every morning, I check to see if anything has been if 3.125 Bitcoin have showed up yet. So far, not yet. Attaboy, Arnie. Attaboy. Take it easy for a while. The resident alien invasion. Happy bull run. Oh, happy bull run's giving. That's a good one. Haven't heard that one before. It is crazy though. All right, Trev's from Trev must be watching it from the Bitcoin Journey channel. So, I mean, I always forget that we have two channels. So am I the only one in here? So we have two channels. We got the Bitcoin Journey channel, which is my backup just in case YouTube shuts me down. That channel has like 1.2 thousand subscribers on it. Basically, just once in a while, I'll put a live stream on there and then a whole bunch of clips every day. But if you're watching that from the Bitcoin Journey, make sure you join the 88 Sats because that's where the show is every day. It's only sometimes on the Bitcoin Journey. So if you're watching this from that channel, make sure you search 88 Sats Radio and you can join us every day. Look at this. Legends Lost. Good day from the Bay of Fundy. Love your show. Thank you. The Bay of Fundy. I should know where that is. I think that's above. That's kind of close to here, I think. I think that's above Ontario, right? The Bay of Fundy, that big looking. I got to see now because I'm curious. Bay of Fundy. Nope, I was wrong. I was thinking of Hudson Bay. My first thought was on the East Coast, the Bay of Fundy. I was thinking of Hudson Bay. Man, Canada's so fucking big. My God. So I saw Alberta, well, BC yesterday here. This is a little bit of Canadian talk for a minute. But I saw that the city of Vancouver announced that they were going to start stacking Bitcoin. They were going to start their own strategic Bitcoin reserve. Just fucking awesome. Vancouver is such a community of, I think it's one of the strongest communities in the world outside of like Bitcoin Jungle. There might be a couple more, but like Vancouver is one of the biggest spots for Bitcoiners right now. And the city announced that they're going to start buying Bitcoin for their own strategic reserve. So of course, Alberta's been talking about it. And it just makes so much sense right now because if you look at like Alberta, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, like even Newfoundland, some of these East Coast provinces, like everybody's fed up with the federal government. Everybody's sick and tired of Justin Trudeau. So what would be the best way to go around him? Just think of like a citizen, but instead of a citizen, a province. And the states are going to do the same thing. It'll be a little bit different relationship, I think, in America, where they have somebody who's focused on growth instead of the DEI stuff. But think about the best thing that you could do is like an Alberta or a Saskatchewan or a Manitoba to give a big middle finger and a GFY to Justin Trudeau. Start saving in Bitcoin. And who knows where that's going to lead. Maybe in 10 years from now, there'll be a currency for British Columbia. There'll be a currency for Alberta. And then there will be much less reliance on the federal government. So instead of fighting with him, just buy Bitcoin. Go around that system. It makes so much sense. And I hope that the East Coast provinces, go with that route as well. But anyways, Josh says, just signed up for Bitcoin Wall. Attaboy. Hey, Thiago, good morning, my friend. You look like one of my good buddies, but I don't think it's him. DEI equals didn't earn it. That's a perfect way to say it. Didn't earn it. Health and wealth, dad. George Satoshi, don't let him say otherwise. Well, I mean, I'm not even going to argue that because it's so outlandish. But, I am Satoshi. And anybody watching the show today is Satoshi. And it's like probably an overdone phrase within Bitcoin, but it is true. Like it's decentralized. There's no one person. There's no Satoshi. We are all Satoshi. So yeah, I am Satoshi. Hey, Knox Bill's in the chat again today. Good morning. All right, I got to rip through some of these comments here. So let's get things going here. Ryan J sent in 2100 sat zap this morning. Happy Thanksgiving. Just drove from Manitoba to Montana. I love Montana. I got a speeding ticket there once. We were driving to Vegas, and it was like $20. I think I just gave the officer $20 cash. So happy Thanksgiving, Ryan. Spending it in the US today. That's pretty cool. Captain Codeman says cash back on spending quickly adds up. Yes. That is the truth. Ali Alba shared my ShakePay referral with friends yesterday, just used to pay for Xmas stuff. There you go. I mean, people need to be thinking about this kind of stuff. Like, here's what everybody should be doing right now. Every Bitcoiner listening to the show. Over these next December, January, February, March, probably over these next 4 months, if you're known as like the Bitcoiner in your group of friends, you're going to have a ton of people reaching out to you. And they're going to say, how do I buy Bitcoin? Where do I buy Bitcoin? So the best thing that you can be doing right now is playing around, getting some exposure to different exchanges, different wallets, learning as much as you can, and actually creating a document, a one-page document where it says, go here, register. You'll have to put in your ID, send an e-transfer to them, set up a wallet, like make it very simple, a one-page document, but include your links there. Or it could be an email, it could be digital format, so you have the links there. But send them a document and just say, follow this. If you run into any issues, then just give me a call. Instead of like having to tailor it every person, just have like one standardized introduction sheet that you give to your friends and family, and you have your link on there. And every time somebody signs up using that link, you'll either get, like Ali said, some cash back from ShakePay, or in Bitcoin Well, you get some sats back or some tossed into the wishing well, which equals sats. But everybody should be doing that. I think that you're crazy not to. And if you're waiting until they start asking you, I think you're going to be too far behind already. And it's going to put too much stress on you. And you're not going to get the true benefits of it. Retro Beaver says, Beaver Bitcoin is what I use, no KYC, and they send coins directly to your hardware wallet. I mean, that's similar to Bitcoin Well. They don't hold any Bitcoin. So when your money shows up, it goes to your wallet. If you don't have a wallet connected, you can't do the transaction. So they actually don't hold any Bitcoin, which I like. And it sounds like Beaver Bitcoin is the same. I know that Bull Bitcoin is also the same. And yes, Captain Codeman, if you're doing reoccurring DCA, like weekly or daily, make sure it's connected to a Lightning wallet. Make sure that you're not sending those, even though they're free for you to send to on-chain, and it seems like the best way to do it. Do not do that. It's going to create an absolute nightmare for you in the future. If that's the one thing I can get across on today's show for everybody listening to this, is if you're doing DCA, make sure you're using Lightning and you're not sending it to your device every time. Duchess, good morning, Jordan, Arnie. Hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I know Canadian Thanksgiving was a while back. Yeah, we're celebrating Thanksgiving today, though. We're kind of like America's little brother, so we just take the scraps. We just take the old shirts, the leftovers, the crumbs. Cable guy. New Bitcoin Layer 2 solution, Goat Network, will enable users to stake Doge and earn crypto. I appreciate the tip, but don't be staking. Don't be staking. Don't be dabbling into crypto. Focus on Bitcoin. Don't get distracted. Bitcoin's the only thing you need. If you want to buy Doge later, you can flip it for Bitcoin. If you want to buy Litecoin later, you can flip it for Bitcoin. but Bitcoin is going to be the best performing crypto, and it's the best place to store value. And you can't argue that. Jets, good evening from Bangkok. Wow. And from the Philippines. What an audience today. Jet says Jack Mallers talks almost as good as George for bolstering BTC conviction. Yeah, I try to manage that as best as I can. Like I'm not the type of guy who's going to come on here and start, all these fancy lights and like getting people fired up. It's just math, right? And I try not to do it like every show and get people's hopes up, but I think it's important to not so much for like the hope and like, excitement for it, but more like understanding what you're holding and setting up the best way to protect those. That's why I talk about it, for two reasons. That reason for understanding what you have and making sure that people are protecting it. And what was the other one? I just had it in my head. And so security, I don't know. I went fucking blank there. It doesn't happen to me often, but it does sometimes. Okay, that's what it was. For the conviction. Because over these next couple of years, if you're holding Bitcoin right now, you're going to see life-changing gains, right? Because you have to understand here that with a fixed supply, this is something that we've never had before. This never existed. With a fixed supply, when you have all the big money in the world, all the countries, all the corporations, all the millionaires, billionaires, when everybody wants that small supply of Bitcoin, the only thing that they can do is run up the price and try to tempt you to sell it. That's it. That's going to be their only strategy. And I think that a lot of people are going to fall for that. They're going to trade a real asset. And that's why I called this the importance of holding real assets for fake assets, because they think that they think that they've made 500% so far, so that it's the top, and they don't understand that there is no top. So that's kind of my main point of doing this show, is to really help people understand that there is no top, and to have the conviction and have the foresight to understand what you're holding and make sure that you're doing everything in your power to protect that. Okay, over on Zapstream, Plunger says, I check my BitX wallet address every morning. It's my daily lottery ticket. 3.125 Bitcoin. Could you imagine? Okay, so what I want to show you here, actually, I'm going to have to, the Bay of Fundy's still up here on my screen. I want to show you this tweet. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to elaborate on what we talked about yesterday. We haven't had any reminders for likes. Where's Rick today? No Rick today? Okay. That's sad. Well, Rick, if you're watching this later, we missed you today. But anyways, there's 69 people in here and only 40 likes. So what the hell? Right, Rick? Rick would have, what would Rick say today? He'd probably say, if you haven't liked the show, I don't know. What would he say? Those who haven't liked the show yet are going to, no, that's too extreme. Rick would never say that. I was going to say you're going to have a lonely Thanksgiving, but Rick's too nice of a guy to say that. Anyways, let's get to, I want to share this tweet with you, because this ties in perfectly to what we're talking about right now and what we were talking about yesterday. So let me find it. I saw that a bunch of Coinbase wallets were frozen and blocked. So, I mean, I think most people who watch the show have already moved their Bitcoin off the exchanges, but just in case you haven't, probably a good time to do it. And if you're using Coinbase, probably a good time to not be anymore. Okay, where's this tweet? Come on. So it's so hard to do things on a live show when you got people watching. Okay, here it is. Let me send this. Actually, I'm not going to send it. We're not going to waste any more time. This is a tweet yesterday from Samson Mao. Samson Mao. He says, people have this weird presumption that there will always be Bitcoin available to buy. So people have this weird presumption that there will always be Bitcoin available to buy. And I really want people to understand what he's saying there. People have this weird presumption that there will always be Bitcoin available to buy. And I think that that's absolutely true. I think that I've heard so many people say, there's always going to be sellers. So there's always going to be coins moving around. But I disagree with that. And I agree with Samson on this. I think that people are really underestimating here the difference between fake assets and real assets. And yesterday we talked about on the show valuing, not thinking in terms of fiat price, but thinking in terms of assets. So and again, I have to do a retraction on this because yesterday's show, we said that the amount of houses, 2.2 billion houses divided by the amount of sats equaled 4,200 sats. And it was live on the show. I think Craig was the one who was doing the math. And so we'll give Craig we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Obviously, Craig's one of the most intelligent people I know in my life. But there was a lot of comments saying that that's wrong. So I did the math myself this morning, and it turns out it was wrong. But it's not far off. So what I want to share here, I want to share a couple things. This is kind of going to be a little focus and a spotlight on AI and how different it is compared to what we're used to. So I'm going to just kind of go through the chat here because I really want you guys and girls to be using this kind of stuff and playing around with it, and just to show like how incredible it is. So I use this app called Claude. And when I talk about my assistant named Claude, that's who I'm talking about, this AI, this app. So I started the conversation, and think of it more like a conversation as opposed to just like question. Like Google, you'd say, I don't know, best Christmas gifts in Canada. Whereas with Claude, you'd say, here's my family. I'm looking for some Christmas presents. This is my price range. Can you give me a list of, like, it's more of a conversation. And I think we talked about that on Robin Sayers' podcast, which should be out tomorrow, I think, by the sound of it. But anyways, I started the conversation with, and usually I'd go to like a calculator and I'd write out the numbers and I'd figure out what, 2.2 billion divided by 21 million Bitcoin, figure out what the sats version of that is. It's a lot. And so instead of trying to figure out all those zeros and mess around with that and the translations, I asked Claude, are you good with math? That's how I started the conversation. And he said, yes, I'm quite proficient in mathematics, blah, blah, blah. So I said, okay, do you know how many houses there are approximately in the world? And they said, yeah, 2 billion. So then he said, it varies based on this, blah, blah, blah. It could be between this. I said, okay, well, let's stick to 2 billion. And I said, do you know how many Satoshis are in circulation right now? Yes, as of July 2024, the total numbers in circulation are 19.6 million. So that would be 1.96 quadrillion Satoshis. That's how many are in existence right now in circulation. That's how many have been mined. So I said, so we have 1.6 quadrillion Satoshis and 2 billion houses. And they said, and this is the other part that I want to share, that I actually outsmarted AI. So Claude said, let's do some fun math to compare these numbers. If we were to distribute those 1.96 quadrillion Satoshis equally among the 2 billion houses, we'd get 980,000 sats per house, right? So that's the number. It's not 4,200 sats. It's 980,000 sats. But then they said, to put that into Bitcoin terms, that would be 9.8 billion per house, or 9.8 Bitcoin per house, since 1 million Satoshis equals 1 Bitcoin. And they said, the AI said some interesting perspectives. That is actually significant amount of money per house at current Bitcoin prices, blah, blah, blah. It seems much higher. And I said, but 980,000 Satoshis is not 9.8 Bitcoin. It's 0.009 Bitcoin. And then Claude said, you're absolutely correct. And I apologize for my previous calculation error. Let me break that down correctly. So that's the retraction. That's the actual amount, 980,000 sats per house. So it's different than 4,200, but at the same time, it's not that different because 980,000 sats is not too far in terms of dollars today from 4,200 sats. And we also have to consider here the fact that that would be a world where the only real asset was a house, right? So the example that we used yesterday was just based on houses. We took the amount of houses divided by the amount of Bitcoin. But you also have to consider that then I asked how many buildings there are in the world, like commercial space. And they said just under 2 billion. So then it cuts in half again because you're still measuring those assets and the value of those assets will fluctuate. Some of them might be worth 2 million sats. Some of them might be worth 20,000 sats. But we're just trying to figure out the amount of assets divided by the Bitcoin. That's the whole, it was more so not, I wasn't looking for like a number just to show how, how rich we are. But I just want people to start thinking differently about this. Instead of looking at the fiat price, people need to be focused on the real assets divided by the price of Bitcoin or divided by the amount of Bitcoin. See, even I have a hard time with this sometimes. So the number of real assets divided by the number of sats. And so in yesterday's example, we just used houses. So if houses were the only real asset that existed, then yes, they would be worth 980,000 Satoshis per house on average. Some would be higher, some would be lower. But then you factor in commercial buildings. Then you factor in land. Then you factor in ounces of gold or tons of gold. Then you factor in golf courses. Then you factor in sports teams. Then you factor in every asset that actually is real. And that you divide that by sats. So 980,000, as crazy as that seems, that you could buy a house for that, it'll be much lower than that. That's kind of the point. So you and we'll probably do this one day. I just didn't have enough time to do it today. But what you would do there, and I might have to think through this a little further, but you take all the different asset classes, all the real assets. And so going back to what Samson Mao said there, where he's basically saying that there will come a time where you won't be able to trade fiat, fake currency for Bitcoin. Nobody will accept it anymore because why would they? So in the future, in order for anybody to actually get Bitcoin, they're either going to have to earn it through work, their time, or they're going to have to trade real assets. Fiat currency is not a real asset. So there will come a time, I agree with Samson on this, where he says that you will no longer be able to buy Bitcoin. Right? So I just want you to take a step back and think about in your own life, what are the real assets that you hold? And think about your neighbor, think about your cousin, think about your whoever, your friends. What real assets do they own? Because those are the only thing that's going to be worth anything in the future that we're going to. When everything's repriced by Bitcoin, a real asset, only the real assets will have value. And that's the only thing that you're going to be able to trade for Bitcoin in the future. So if you just keep going down that road and you look at houses, land, sports teams, golf courses, all these different asset classes, the real ones, and you divide that by sats, that'll give you a better indication of kind of the real value of Bitcoin today, the real value of sats today. And when you think in that terms, that's why I've said this a lot before, but I think that there'll come a time where nobody has any idea what one Bitcoin is worth. Like when we get to that point, when everything's repriced by Bitcoin, and let's say it's $1 million in fiat terms, at that point, when one sat equals 1 cent, that's when everything changes. That's when people have no idea what the price of Bitcoin is anymore. Because when you see that moving from 1 cent to 2 cents per sat to $1 per sat to $10 per sat, then even though it seems like that's when people are going to be like looking at Bitcoin as like a penny stock, even though it's not like an illusion like the actual penny stocks. This is something real, but that's how people are going to see it. So I just want to, I don't know if I'll clip that or not today, but I think it was important to just do a little retraction there, but also explain why I was talking about that, because the real thing there was that you have to be thinking in terms of real assets versus fake, and that people won't always be able to buy Bitcoin with fiat. That was the moral of the story. That only the people holding real assets are going to have Bitcoin in the future. And going down that road even further, and I want to give a shout out here to our buddy Jerry Loves Freedom, because he talks about this too. And me and him agree on a lot of different things, and this is one of them. So if you go down that road and you understand that you're either going to have to earn Bitcoin through your time and value, or you're going to have to trade real assets for it in the future. If you go down that road, think about how hard people have to work and for like a week to earn like 5 sats. So today, where we are today, you can take one of your illusionary, completely made up fiat dollars. And in Canada here, you still get about 700 sats. In the US, you get over 1,000 sats. And if you fast forward like a decade or so, like that's going to be one year's salary probably for a high earner. And you can buy that with $1 today. It's just math. That's the thing, is just math. And I think that a lot of people fail to really even sit down and think about the math on this whole thing, because it is so, it's impossible, I think, for the human brain to comprehend that from where we are today to where it should be and to where we're going to. But if you just look at it objectively with using math, then you can see that it's not a far-fetched thing. So, of course, we are over an hour already. Hey, Joe, we're going to start doing a podcast, adding more work so we don't have to go for a 2-hour show every day. Fail 2 days in a row. Okay, so that's what I wanted to get out there. That was the point of today's show. I'm going to buzz through these comments here, and we're going to move on. So we'll take 10 minutes here. We'll go through the comments. We're actually doing okay. We're doing okay. Jay from Philly. Love your content. I love Philly. I've become a big fan of Philly. Okay, I can't get distracted here, but Jay, if you ever feel like, if Bitcoin takes off and you got a little extra purchasing power and you want to return the favor here, if you love the content, if you want to pay some back, the one thing I would love more than anything else right now, and I even had this on my Christmas list this year, and I'm not a big sports guy anymore, but one guy that I love is Saquon Barkley. He's a Philadelphia Eagle. He's a Bitcoiner, obviously. That's why I love him. But he's one of the most incredible athletes and species and just minds that I've ever seen before. So Jay, if you can get access to a cheap Saquon Barkley jersey and you want to send it over the border to Canada here, I would love that. That would make my year. So shout out to Philly, shout out to the Eagles, and shout out to Saquon Barkley. Julian says it'll still be cheaper than ETH fees. Yeah, well, ETH probably won't be around then. It's my guess. Captain Codeman says, how would miners get paid given the block reward drops to close to zero over time? Well, it'll be all the transaction fees. And that's why I think that people are really overestimating the sats per VByte when all of the world's energy is going to the Bitcoin network, and the miners are like, the payouts will be the transaction fees there. So they'll be higher in terms of purchasing power because there'll be more demand, but they'll actually be much lower in terms of sats. Look at this fucking legend. Guy's going by on his side-by-side, plowing this road. Private road. That's the kind of stuff that you would only see in a small town. Look at that, Jay. I used to mine with my S7 back in 2016, was making 2 million sats per day. So 2016, 10 years later, look how far we've come since then. Imagine 10 years from now. There's going to be probably Jay's son or Jay's daughter in a YouTube chat saying, I used to mine Solo Satoshi back in 2024, was mining 200 sats per day. And people are going to be like, what? 200 sats per day? It's going to happen. Like that. Just realize the fact that yes, we've come a long way, but this thing hasn't even started yet. It's going to be no different going into the future. Brennan says, first time watching live, love the channel. Thank you. Been stacking sats for years now. One of the best decisions of my life. Amen to that. Amen to that. Okay, I got to top up the Zap stream here quickly. I don't want to cut that crew off. We love the Zappers. Hold on. Let me pay my digital rent here. If we didn't have this new YouTube Zap stream, honestly, I think I would probably stop using Zapstream until they figured it out, because it doesn't really make sense for me to be paying to use it when nobody can zap on there, or nobody zaps. But I do see one zap came in for 121 sats, so thank you for that in the Zap stream. It's shitty. I don't even know who it is. Anyways. Me bitching. Josh says, Jora used your code in the notes for Bitcoin Well and only got 3 tossed into the well, not 5. Also, not the end of the world. Just so you know, should have manually typed in the link from the banner. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah, and there was I think it was Ginger yesterday in the chat said that they used the link too and got 0. They reached out to Bitcoin Well. Actually, I talked to somebody from Bitcoin Well yesterday. So if you go on Bitcoin Well, there's a little chat bubble at the bottom right corner, and just let them know, because they can see all that, right? They'll see that your account only got 3 tosses into it, and so they'll give you 2 more. Ginger said they responded within the day and got him more tosses on there. I mean, yeah, Retro Beaver says there needs to be a national holiday for all of Canada the day Trudeau is forced out. And apparently there's like a non-confidence vote tonight. I'm so over that stuff. It's sickening to me. So yeah, I do think that there'll be a huge party when he's taken out of Canada, forcefully or unforcefully. Wow. Bitcoin Satan. Bad name, but good comment. Just confirm my son is all in on Bitcoin. He's 22. Ironically, he tipped me off about it 10 years ago. Wow. Nicholas says, how do you deal with the regret of not buying more Bitcoin in the past? I could have sold my stocks and went all in on Bitcoin. Now I have to pay so much more to get those sats back. That's exactly what I was saying like 2 minutes ago. Don't have any sort of regrets. Just stay focused. Stay focused on adding value. Stay focused on converting all of your fiat to Bitcoin while you still can. And just understand that in 10 years from now, people are going to be looking back at the people who are here now with that same regret. So the majority of people who had Bitcoin back in, let's say 2014, 2015, a lot of those people do not have their Bitcoin anymore. They either sold it when it doubled, or they sold it when it crashed, or they forgot their keys, or they got hacked, or their exchange got hacked. The majority of people who had Bitcoin back then no longer have Bitcoin today. And they have a very sour taste about Bitcoin in their mouth. So they're going to be last to adopt here. So I would say that there's never been a better time to be in Bitcoin right now. 0 regrets. Nobody should have any regrets right now if you have any sats. Oh, Ahsoka says 121 from me, Jor. Just seeing if the zaps work on the stream. Yep, I got them. Thank you for that. It is there. It is in the wallet. Mongo. Great idea for the one pager to help orange pill more folks listening from Montreal. Love this channel. Thank you. Lots of love today. Lots of love for the channel today. Marius, hey Jor, have you heard about Denmark is to make a 40% tax on unrealized gains on Bitcoin? It's really shit and forcing everyone out of the country. That's what it's going to do, right? All the Bitcoiners are going to leave. And I would argue that this is kind of, self-serving, but I would argue that the Bitcoiners are the people you want in your country. They're going to be the ones who have the wealth in the future. They're the ones who are building. They're the ones who are focused on the right things. So, I mean, a country like Denmark, they implement something like that, they're going to lose their country. For real. It's not just the price going up. It's not just the hash rate going up, but it's the brain drain going from the fiat system into Bitcoin. The smartest people are making that shift. And if you force those people out of your country, you're a fucking dummy. So it sucks. But I mean, the nice thing is you can kind of take things into your own hands. And that's what we're doing here in Canada, where our dollar's shit. We have insane tax laws, but just buy Bitcoin and hold on to it. And you're going to outlive the government, right? You're going to outlive policies. Bitcoin's going to outlive all of us. Yeah, there's no top to Bitcoin. Exactly. Martha Stewart's Chrome 45, great name. Bitcoin has no top because fiat has no bottom. Yes, this is a good call. This is probably what Rick would say. This is much more Rick-like. If you haven't liked the show, you're a turkey. Damien says, why do you advise not to use Coinbase? They're shit. Straight up. They're dog shit company. They don't like Bitcoin. They spend too much time focusing on other cryptocurrencies. Their CEO is a dipshit. They force people. They lock people's accounts for no reason. It takes 6 months to hear back from them. And their fees are too high. I mean, if that's your only option, then that's a different story. But like, if you have options here in Canada, like if you're using Coinbase instead of like Bitcoin Well or Bull Bitcoin, like you're nuts. Doesn't make any sort of sense. And that's another thing. 0990 says people die and lose Bitcoin all the time. Bitcoiners have like this 4 million Bitcoin lost forever mentality from like, I don't know what they use for that, but I think it's much higher and it's going to get much higher. And there's really no way for us to ever know. That's the crazy thing. So as much as we try to like price it in and make estimates of how many coins are lost, I think it's significantly under what am I trying to say here? That number is very low of the amount of Bitcoin lost, and we'll never really know for sure. Bitcoin Discovery says there's a new Bitcoin Street interview by, don't know what that is, Lahwf, Lahwf, and the public has no idea about it. I don't know what that means. Sorry, man, or a woman, but that's it. Yes, this is a great call from Jets. Need to change the view from buying Bitcoin to getting out of fiat. Bitcoin is the money. Absolutely. Okay, Letha says the same thing. I saw that Bitcoin Discovery. So crazy. Can somebody elaborate on that? What does this mean? There's a new Bitcoin Street interview by whatever that is. Thoughts on Solana? I mean, if you're a crypto person, sure. If you're choosing Solana or Ethereum, Solana. If you're trying to protect your wealth, if you're looking for the best place to store your wealth, it's Bitcoin. Don't own any Solana. You can buy Solana later if you need it. But I haven't spent, and I can't really comment too much because I haven't looked into it at all. And I never will. Yeah, exactly. Even regardless if it's 4,200 or 980,000, it's still how many houses for a Bitcoin instead of how many Bitcoin for a house. Great point. Great point. George, talking like this is what I meant earlier by conviction, not hype excitement. Yeah, deep understanding of what Bitcoin really is. That's the point. That is the point. Julian says it might go full circle. They say it was very hard to buy Bitcoin back in 2009. Easy now, but it might be very hard to buy Bitcoin in the future with the exchanges have almost nothing left. Don't get me wrong. There will probably be more. There will probably be more exchanges that go down. Like, you know, we say now that there's 2 million Bitcoin available on exchanges. Are there though? Do we know for sure that Coinbase has all the Bitcoin that they say they do? Because that's what happened last time, right? The last time there was a big crash. FTX was selling Bitcoin. They were taking people's money. They were sending it into another, I think it was Alameda or something. They were buying a whole bunch of their own coins, pumping up the price, dumping those. They ended up having 0 Bitcoin. They claimed to have a bunch of Bitcoin. And I think that could happen, especially when you're talking about, you know, Coinbase might be a different thing because it's publicly traded and they have auditors. And I say that because, you know, no, I'm not gonna go there. But I will say I was an auditor, and it's not like I was a corrupt auditor, obviously. But you know, I've been through audits before. I've gone through that work before, and it's the people doing the audits are not always the sharpest tools. And when the client's paying you, there's an inherent conflict of interest there, right? Because if a client hires you to do an audit on them, you're relying on that revenue from them this year, next year, 10 years from now, especially if it's a big client. Like, this is the whole conflict of interest in the world of audits. It's like, are you going to give them a bad opinion on the audit and risk them not coming back next year or them going out of business? And don't get me wrong. There has been situations in the past where that has happened, where an auditor says, nothing's right here. You're failing the audit, and they lose the client. But it's just an inherent conflict of interest there. So I'm not comparing FTX to Coinbase because one was a private company, one's a public company. The disclosures are different. The framework is different. The requirements are different. But don't ever discount corrupt auditors. That's all I'm saying. And so if we think that there's 2 million Bitcoin available right now, that's the max, right? That's the max. That's what people have to keep in mind too. It's not like we think that there's 2, but there's actually 5 million on exchanges. No, the maximum of 2, the minimum is who knows. What is a SAT? Absolute Drip VTG. A SAT is a unit of account. It's a way to measure Bitcoin. So in every 1 Bitcoin, there is 100 million sats. Think of it like dollars and cents, where in every dollar, there's 100 cents. In every Bitcoin, there's 100 million sats or Satoshis. That's what it's short for. Oz says, what do you think about the 300 rule on Bitcoin? I don't know what that means. What does that mean? What's the 300 rule? Are you still here? Let me know. I'll gladly discuss. Daniel says, the point is sometime in the not so distant future, no one will be willing to trade Bitcoin for any fiat currency. Yep. Good way to explain it. Reaper Trader says, do you sell some kind of mentorship? Not really. I mean, we have our multi-generational wealth course, which talks about all this stuff in like a very concise, short, very, very valuable for Bitcoiners. But the Living in the Future community, we focus on Bitcoin. We focus on growing networks. We focus on business opportunities, business ideas, different way to, the Earl Nightingale kind of stuff. And so, I mean, if you're interested in that, it is kind of cool. And it is very much undervalued, I think, or underpriced, overvalued, I think. Because this is what I was thinking about. It's like, there's been people, and God bless the people in the Living in the Future community. There's been people in there, and I think Daniel is actually the first person in there. But I was thinking about like the prices of things. Yesterday, I went on a little tangent about Bitcoin Way and how much they're, not overpriced, but like not delivering on their value. And I was thinking like someone like Daniel, who's been a member in Living in the Future it hasn't even been around for a year yet, the group. And so it's $5 a month. That's $60,000 or $60 a year. $60 a year. And I don't know if Daniel can pinpoint anything that he specifically learned from being in that community, but I'm sure there's a few. And I mean, if you compare something to, having a $60 investment for a year, that's like the max that anybody has paid for a year. And, if you find one thing in that whole year that you change in your security setup, in the way that you manage your keys, in the device you use, in the exchange you use, if you learned one thing from that, that $60 in a year is going to be a joke in 10 years from now, when you still have your Bitcoin, when you've made adjustments in your setup, your life, doing things differently. So, the Living in the Future community has been absolutely buzzing lately. I think there was like 10 people that joined yesterday. So consider that if you're watching this and you like what we're doing here, and we talked about the Bitcoin investment club that we're working on. You get the multi-generational wealth course, and you get access to the Signal in the Discord, where you can just hang out with Bitcoiners and talk to Bitcoiners and ask questions and discuss things. So underpriced. And, I don't want to up the price because I'm not in the business of ripping people off. It mostly just acts as like a filter, because we don't want a whole bunch of noise in there. We don't want a whole bunch of spam. But if you have a little bit of skin in the game, you're going to add more. You're going to want to learn more. And that's the kind of people that we want in there. So I don't plan on raising the prices for like the Living in the Future. But the one thing, we've actually had 2 people join as the VIB level, the very important Bitcoiners. And I would highly suggest this for anybody out there who's like has 1 Bitcoin, but their skill, knowledge, everything's lacking behind that. That's what I would suggest. It's $88 a month, but the 2 people that joined said that's a steal of a deal for what they want, what we're going to provide. And it's basically 1 meeting per month with me, where we just go through the strategy, go through your setup, review things, any questions. This stuff is so important right now. And so if you are somebody who's like, feel like you're too far ahead of your skis right now, I would say 1 Bitcoin's probably the minimum. But again, if you value sats like I do, it might be half a Bitcoin. But consider that. And whether it's a year, you're looking at, what is that, 80 times 12, $1,000 for a year. Is it worth it to have your full Bitcoin in 20 years from now? Probably. And that's why I like the 5% rule. Whatever you have in Bitcoin, take 5% and invest that into your security. And so if you got a Bitcoin, that's about $5,000 worth in your budget for security, and $1,000 for a monthly meeting, monthly check-in, plus access to everything else, probably worth it. So, and I'm allowed to talk about it. It's my show, and I think it's very important. Glencoe says, I zapped the QR code in the corner of your video. Okay, let's check it out. Yep. Hi from Glencoe. 2 sats. Thank you. It worked. It worked. And if you're if the QR code's not working for you, if you're watching this on your phone, you can actually send it to this address here. That's Arnie's wallet. Okay, well, we're almost at the bottom here. Lori, good morning. Late to class. Okay, Bitcoin Discovery says, the Bitcoin Street interview is a guy asking the general public what they think about Bitcoin. Very interesting to view perspectives outside the community. Yeah, I agree. And we talked about the street guy or whoever this was asking people if they'd rather have a Bitcoin or Taylor Swift tickets. And it really just goes to show how disconnected most people are and how out of touch they are and completely unaware of what's happening here. So that's a great idea and a great point. Look at that. Interesting top says, spent 10% of my Bitcoin on a Ford F650 this past week, worth every penny. I'm guessing you need it for something. Nobody's buying an F650 just for shits and gigs. So who oversees public companies like Coinbase? SEC? Yeah, if they're a public company, it would be the SEC in America, and I'd forget what it's called here in Canada. Okay, this is going to be the last one of the day. Last question of the day. Joe says, why do you think that most of the population still thinks that Bitcoin is a scam? Because we've had 16 years of negative marketing against Bitcoin at every level, whether that's a newspaper article, whether that's mainstream media on a show doing an interview talking about Bitcoin mining, how bad it is for the environment, how closely it's tied to the drugs, the trafficking. Trudeau came out, I think, a couple of years ago and said that it's insane to store your wealth in Bitcoin instead of the Canadian dollar. That advice is going to make people go broke, and it's gone up 200% since he said that. So the people who don't want Bitcoin to succeed have very powerful tools, and that's called propaganda. And they've been using that very effectively for the last 16 years against Bitcoin. And slowly we're kind of breaking out of that mold and that narrative. And I think that Trump being president is going to be a very good thing for Bitcoin and very good thing for the world's view on Bitcoin. But I think that's the main one in terms of why people think it's a scam, just because they've been told that, and they've spent 0 hours actually looking at it themselves. All of the information in their brain is from other people. It's secondhand information. And the people with the biggest voice, the biggest platforms that pay a lot of money to get that message out there, do not want Bitcoin to succeed. So imagine you have this Bitcoin here with no CEO, no marketing team, no strategy, just people, just YouTube channels, just people at meetups, people doing presentations, the Andreas Antonopoulos of the world. That's all it is. It's just people talking about it. And you have the other side with like billions, trillions dollars of power, of influence, and they're sending out this message to people that Bitcoin's bad. Like, who do you think is going to win that? They've won so far, but that's the opportunity here for Bitcoiners, is that everybody thinks it's a scam. And if you spent your 100 or 200 or 1,000 hours in Bitcoin, you understand that it's absolutely not a scam. It couldn't be further from being a scam. So that's the opportunity there. And so don't feel bad about that. That should be something that you're happy about. Because if everybody thought that, Bitcoin was a great investment, not risky at all, like you have to be some kind of crazy, I think, to be in Bitcoin. Because you have to be crazy enough to hear all this stuff from your friends, your family, your coworkers, your TV, that is the complete opposite of what you actually believe. You have to be crazy to actually get to that point. But if it wasn't crazy, if it was like a normal thing, then there would be no opportunity there. The opportunity, when it's normal, when Bitcoin isn't seen as a scam anymore, the opportunity is gone. So don't feel bad about it. Just be glad about it. All right, that's it. TJ, good morning from Northern California, USA. I want to say thank you to everybody for showing up today. We had a lot of people in the chat and a lot of zaps coming in. We had about 5 minutes there where we had a ton of zaps. And we're going to leave it there for today. So I'm going to go do the podcast right now. Again, make sure if you haven't checked it out, you can find it on Spotify. Just type in the Daily Bitcoin Journey. It's still the same RSS feed, but it's called Project Potential now. And it's going to be more focused on like business stuff, Bitcoin stuff, unlocking people's true potential using Bitcoin. So we got the daily Bitcoin journey, the live show every day that we're doing now. We have the daily Bitcoin journal, the blog that I do every day, and you can find that on Nostr or Substack. And then we have Project Potential, which is the follow-up podcast to do most days. I'm going to try to do it most days, which is like uninterrupted, half an hour, deep dive on something, talk things through, and that's going to be shared on audio only. But if you're living in the future, remember, I posted the video in there. Not that people want to see my face, but some people like watching Arnie while they listen. So that's that. And I don't know what else to tell you. I could go on for another 10 minutes here talking about all the things we got going on, but just stick around. Stick around. And the one thing I said to the Living in the Future community is that it's going to pay off to be here early. Like if you've been kind of putting off joining that community, the people who are there early are going to be the reward the most. And we're still in the very early days of that. So don't put it off. Join the community. You can watch the multi-generational wealth course. You can be part of the Bitcoin investment club, which I've probably received 20 emails in the last couple of days about it. People joining for that. The chat's going. I think we have over 20 people in there already, and I'm going to be adding more right away. Don't miss out on it. This opportunity is not going to be here for very long. And it's one thing to just buy Bitcoin and think that you're going to retire off that one day. But if you actually want to be involved, if you want to make real change, if you want to turn that into multi-generational wealth, where you're not only holding that, you're protecting, you don't have to sell it, but you also create streams, income streams of Bitcoin or fiat that you turn into Bitcoin every month. That's where the real wealth is going to be made here. So that's the focus on all that kind of stuff. Okay. So I see some comments here, but again, I cut it off. I'm sorry. We just we're already over an hour and a half. I'm so bad at this. So have a great weekend, everybody. We're back tomorrow. Have a great Thursday. Consider joining. Anything you need to know, show notes. If you want to get in touch, if you want to check things out, if you want to join the Living the Future, it's all there. So have a great Thursday. Have a great Thanksgiving to all the Americans, and we'll see you right back here first thing tomorrow morning. Bye-bye.